What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan, and today is the betting show as we look ahead to UFC 275. There are two massive title fights on the top of this card, and a rematch of, you know, arguably, I would say definitely, in my opinion, the greatest women's fight of all time between Joanna and Jedrzejczyk and Zhang Weili in the third spot on this card. So it's a banger all told, and I really can't wait for it. And I have some good bets here. I think it's a good betting card as well. Couple of the undercard bets, but ones from the top three as well here as well. How many as wells can I give there? Anyway, last week went pretty well. Hit, I think, 3 of the bets, including the parlay. I know people in the comment section last week were giving me a bit of crap for picking Karolina Kowalkiewicz twice, but thankfully it worked because she went out and she won her fight against Felice Herrig. So all in all, it was a pretty good week for the betting. The flyer didn't go again, but sure, look, the flyer's not meant to go. The flyer's meant to be a couple of quid to throw away you never want to see again. But that's this whole betting show as well. And I must say as well, bet responsibly. Please don't bet more than you can. Don't go overboard. Keep this fun. I wouldn't like to do this show if it wasn't kept fun, if it went serious or anything like that. So sincerely, please don't do that. Keep these bets, you know, a couple of quid every week. Have a bit of fun with it. Maybe a couple of fights even on the undercard if you're not that interested on them. For a bit of interest, you know, throw on something at 10 to 1, you might win a couple of quid. You know, that's this sort of betting show. I won't be talking about units. There's some great guys out there. I saw actually Dan Tom is one of those guys who, if you want to talk about units and do all of that stuff, that's the sort of place you need to go for that. For me, it's just a few bets, a bit of insight on mixed martial arts, a bit of breakdown on a few of the fights and how I think maybe they will go, or I think they could go. So yeah, I will keep explaining that as I start every show, because I think it's necessary, to be honest, and I think the bet responsibly part as well is very important, because betting is an odd game. But anyway, we will get into it. Let's go. I'll go straight away from my first bet to one of the title fights, and I'm going for Shevchenko inside the distance at plus 150. She's obviously fighting Taila Santos, and I went and I watched a good bit of Taila Santos. I watched everything that they had on Fight Pass. Funnily enough, though, they don't have like her last two. Well, this was, I think, Saturday I was watching them, but like 1 week before, she fights for a world title fight, right, against Valentina Shevchenko, one of the greatest women of all time. Her opponent, her fights, her two most recent fights, are not on UFC Fight Pass, and not just, you know, you can probably find them somewhere. But when you search Taila Santos, and there's actually like a tab they have now, which is like a fighter tab, you can click into Taila Santos. There was I think 3 fights of hers there. Her last 2 fights were on the dead Fight Pass. My God, it was terrible, didn't great. And now to me, it's not terrible now, but it's just not good again. But anyway, so I went back and I watched some of her fights, and you know what? She's a good fighter. She's a very good fighter. But she's fighting Valentina Shevchenko, and that's the problem. And I could go in and I could do a whole breakdown of Taila Santos from what I saw of her and what I think is good. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. You know, it doesn't really matter, because she's fighting Valentina Shevchenko, and she's almost certainly not going to win this fight. She's really not. To me, it's like, is Valentina Shevchenko going to go along like she has done in lots of her title fights, or is she going to go out there and try to get the finish? Like, as well, even if, let's say, Taila Santos wins, it's probably a function of afterwards Valentina Shevchenko won't have performed like when Juliana Pena won against Amanda Nunes. Now, is that fair for me to say that? Is that fair in general? Probably not, no, but that will be the discussion, and that's probably the reality of it as well, if the fight goes that way. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's something I'm not seeing with Taila Santos, that she has the athleticism and speed and technique that can beat someone like Valentina Shevchenko. I will hold my hands up if I am wrong in that way, and Shevchenko comes out and she fights to her utmost and gets beaten by Taila Santos. But I don't know, I just don't see it here. But I'll do briefly what I said I just won't do. What I did see with Santos, what she is good at, she's only 3 submissions, but she's good on the ground. I think she has good jiu-jitsu. My favourite thing of hers is her just straight 1-2 down the middle power shots. She's a good enough jab, and she's a very good right hand. When she can land it, it's very snappy and seems to be very powerful as well. So that, to me, is what you do against Shevchenko. Try to push her back, try to land a jab, and try to knock her out with a big right hand down through the middle. You know you're going to get out-volumed. You know you're going to get out-techniqued. You know she's stronger than you in all areas. Maybe not to jiu-jitsu, maybe you've better jiu-jitsu than her, but is Taila Santos going to be able to wrestle Shevchenko to the ground multiple times? Like Shevchenko has shown over the last while, she's actually willing to take people down. She's very good in the clinch. You know, the Muay Thai is not just the kickboxing part of it, the clinch part of it, the trips part of it as well, is something Valentina Shevchenko is really, really great at, and people maybe underestimate, or did once underestimate, probably don't underestimate it anymore, but she's really, really good there. So that to me is the place that Taila Santos may win the fight. If there is one way she win the fight, I think it's her straight 1-2s right down through the middle, or maybe a submission. And I think to land the straight 1-2s right down through the middle, she will need to come inside against Valentina Shevchenko. She will need to push forward, and if she does that, she will open herself up to strikes. Look at Jessica Ai. Now, I think, you know, Santos at this part of her career is probably better than I was then. I really rate Santos. I think she's very, very good. Very, very good. And I have another podcast and a video on the Sherdog YouTube this week about that division, and how I think without Shevchenko, it's actually not a bad division and has improved a lot. Myself and my good friend Spencer Kite actually spoke about that a couple of weeks ago on a podcast as well. But I'll say it again, it's Shevchenko there. It is Shevchenko at the top. But the reason I'm going for Shevchenko inside the distance, I'll say it again, is because I think Taila Santos will make an effort to get forward. You know, let me just look. I think she's 19-1. Yeah, so she's not used to losing. You know, she's not a person who'll go out there and just go out there to lose, as a lot of people do. They're happy to get the title shot. And look, win or lose, I'm fighting Valentina Shevchenko. It's probably not going to go well. Let's just go out there and have our fight, and that's that, you know. And I don't think Taila Santos will be that, but I think that might actually play against her. And if she goes out there and she tries to land big shots and she tries to walk Valentina Shevchenko down, Valentina Shevchenko is the fastest person in that division by a mile. She hits very hard, and she'll counter her really well as well. And if she does continue to go forward, Santos, and continues to get countered, I don't think she can last 5 rounds against Shevchenko. I really don't. I also think if she does that, she leaves herself open to getting clinched, to getting thrown on her back, and like, I could see this fight ending, and here's my bold prediction. I could see this fight ending with Valentina Shevchenko getting the fight to the ground, getting a crucifix, and landing elbows on the ground. That's my prediction how this fight ends. So first bet of this week, Valentina Shevchenko to win inside the distance, plus 150. Right. My second bet of the week, in a fight I absolutely love, I'm going for Andre Fialho just to win straight up at minus 145. I think that's a great price on him. I really think that's a great price on him. You know, it's I don't like giving minus money bets, honestly, because that's not this sort of show, as everyone knows. But and actually, I'm looking here again now. He's plus 1 on the reference point here, and over my friend Best Fight Odds. It's actually plus 134 now. So that price is coming. It's an even better price now. So plus 134. That'll probably change during the week. Let me just fix my notes here. That'll probably change during, you know, as we get closer to Saturday night as well. But that is a smashing price on Andre Fialho. He's fighting Jake Matthews here, who I have a lot of respect for. Who, you know, I probably talked up Jake Matthews more than most people in the world, honestly. I think he's a very good fighter, and I think he gets maybe a little bit of a harsh treatment because he was seen as this massive prospect coming through, and maybe he hasn't met that you know, that level yet, or hasn't climbed to the level which people expected yet. But there's still time. He's still young, and he, you know, it's funny when a young prospect becomes a late developer at the very top level, but that can happen. You know, we can see. Look at someone, say like a Bisping. I think he went like 15-0 or something. He was a top prospect, and then he didn't win a title till he was 35 or something. I don't know, whatever it might be. Look at Glover Teixeira as well. Now there's extenuating circumstances for all of those guys, but Glover Teixeira, you know, wasn't in America for a long while, but he was a top prospect coming through when he was maybe not young but younger, and then he lost probably, 2 out of 10 fights or something like that, went backward, and now he's the champion. Blachowicz. You know, it happens with lots of different... Charles Oliveira. It happens with loads of different people. No, I'm not saying Jake Matthews will be one of them, but he could be one of them. But anyway, that's a separate point. I like... Jake is a good, solid wrestle boxer type of fighter, but can fight all the way around as well. And I respect his game, and I think it's a very, very good game. And he's 22 fights into his career now. He's 27 years of age, and this is a big opportunity for him. The problem is that he's fighting Andre Filo, and he fought Sean Brady the last time. And the problem is, well, I remember when he fought Sean Brady, I said, maybe not coming into that fight, but after that fight or analysing that fight, it's like he's fighting a better version of himself. You know, Brady is a better wrestler. He is probably faster. He's a better striker. He's stronger. And even though I think in the first round of that, Jake Matthews did show some good striking and did show some good things, that kind of well-roundedness just took over a little bit. And I think Andre Filo, this is a guy who I really think has the potential to go a long way in this division. He took a short notice fight against Michel Pereira. Michel Pereira even was... It was a good fight. I think he won the first round and was lost the last two, if I'm not mistaken. He beat Mikel Baeza, who's a top prospect in the first round, knocked him out, and then knocked out Cameron Van Camp, who's 21 fights into his career as well. And, you know, he has some very, very good wins out in UAE Warriors against some good guys as well. Beat James Vick, knocked him out, and, you know, had an iffy enough, I suppose, start to his career. You know, lost to Chidi Njokuani and a few more as well. Well, an iffy enough middle portion, I suppose, of his current career. But he's really good now. He's really, really good. And I've compared him a couple of times to Conor McGregor in his striking. Now, he's not... It's not obvious to look at him and go, he's like Conor McGregor. I just think the way he pressures so well, throws his 1-2 down the middle so well, and he's an orthodox fighter as well, unlike McGregor, but counters so well off of that pressure. It's rare to see, and that's why I say he's like McGregor, because McGregor was the best at doing that when he fought Eddie Alvarez and a few fights previous to that as well. But Andre Filo does that so well, and I watched his fights before the Michel Pereira fight in UAE Warriors, preparing for that, and that's the one thing I really noticed about him there, and that's why he gets knockout after knockout. Like if you look at his last few wins, right? He's 2 in the UFC, first round knockout. Okay, he went to a decision with Pereira. Over in UAE Warriors, first round knockout, second round knockout. That's the type of fighter he is. He will knock you out. He will knock you out because he puts that pressure on and lands his big shots. And I think against Jake Matthews, if Jake can't get his forward game going where he is landing his jab and landing his good striking, landing his good takedowns and being pushed back all the time, I think he will, by nature, by anyone's nature, especially if you're a tougher man as Jake Matthews, you'll try to fight out of it. And that's a problem, because when you do try to fight out of it against someone like Pereira, that's what he wants you to do. He wants that pressure to bring fighting out of his opponent so he can counter that fighting and probably get a big shot and land a big shot and maybe get the finish. But I was going for him inside the distance. It isn't that much of a difference from the straight up price, so I'm going for the straight up price because I do respect Jake Matthews. I think he's very tough, and I think he possibly could last in this fight. But so that's my second bet. Andre Filo minus 134 now to win straight up, minus 134. Next bet I'm going for Manel Kape to win inside the distance at plus 125. And this this one is more of a feel type of pick here than maybe an analytical one. I just feel like Manel Kape has reached a stage in his career now, and he had, you know, that USADA scare or whatever it was for the last fight, and he kind of got over it as well, and that might actually kind of play into what I'm talking about here. I think it's at a stage in his career now where he had the weight cutting problems, he had a few losses, you know, he was out in Risen and things like that, and I think he's reached a stage now where it's as we say here in Ireland and maybe other places, it's shit or get off the pot. Am I allowed? Of course I'm probably allowed, of course. it's his time to climb to the top of that division now. He's 28 years of age. He has had 23 fights in his career. He's fought all those good guys out in Risen, you know, like Kaya Sakura, Ulsa Sasaki, you know, Haraguchi, Ian McCall, and all of those guys. And he's come over to the UFC. He's lost a couple of fights to Pantoja and Nicolau, but he beat Ode Osborne and Zamagulov in his last two. You know, guys who are, if they're, you know, they're good fighters, but they're not ranked up to the very top. Bontorin is right up there towards the very top, and this is the fight you win to get another fight, to get a title fight, you know, or maybe you'll get a title fight off of this if it's impressive enough. Bontorin is a very, very good fighter. You know, a really, really good fighter. We saw him against Kai Kara France, almost winning that fight and getting knocked out. Lost split decision to Brandon Rival, beat Matt Schnell, and I've great time for Matt Schnell. I think he's a very, very good fighter. But, you know, he has lots of different wins throughout his career. He's knockouts, his submissions and everything like that. I think against Kape, he'll try to do what he tried to do against Kai Kara France. I think he'll try to take him down. I think he'll try to use his jiu-jitsu. I think he'll be safe enough on the feet when he can be. Now against Kai Kara France, he proved that he wasn't that safe on the feet. And I think that is a good game plan. It might win him the fight. But I just think Kape has that power. It's, and I'll say it again, it's a feel one. It feels like it's that time in his career for him to kick on. It feels like Bontorin is the next step for him to go towards the top. Now, my feel might be wrong. My call might be wrong. We'll see on Saturday night, but I'm willing to back it. I sometimes, you know, sometimes I'm willing to back the feel, and I'm willing to back the feel here. It feels like he's going to win. Plus 125 inside the distance. If he does win, I think it will be inside the distance. So plus 125, I think is a good shout there. So let's go for that, and let's go for Manel Kape. Let's back the feel. Hashtag back the feel. If he wins, I want people sending me hashtag back the feel over on Twitter if Manel Kape wins there. The next bet I'm going for, it's kind of another field bet, to be honest, and it's Zhang Weili at minus 170. And actually, let me just see, has that price been updated here this morning? It's around the same, one plus minus 171, one minus 165. So I'll stick with minus 170. I went back and I watched a bit of her fight with Joanna and Jedrzejczyk today, and I'll watch the rest of it as the week goes, and I might, you know, do it as a post or whatever. But I thought it was important actually today when I'm looking at this fight to look only. I watched the first two rounds and a bit of the third round as well, and there was a bit of a change in the third round. In Jedrzejczyk came on a little bit more, and she started to land a few more shots, but the early goings for Zhang Weili were very good. And I heard John Anik saying, I think it was in the third round, that Zhang Weili, not many people can go with the volume of Joanna and Jedrzejczyk, but Zhang Weili did. Now, over 5 rounds, that's a dangerous game to play, as it showed in that fight. But over 3 rounds, and this is why I only watched the start of it, because I wanted to get a take on how the opening goings of that fight went. And I think the opening goings of that fight went very well for Zhang Weili in lots of different ways. Now, Jedrzejczyk had her moments as well, but she was throwing lots of shots and landed lots of power shots and kept going, you know, went to the distance and went 5 rounds. So cardio, she probably doesn't have the superior cardio, but it wasn't a massive issue. Now, this time, it is 3 rounds. So imagine what happened in the first 3 rounds of that, but now Zhang Weili has the ability to up it a little bit. She has the ability to land maybe even more volume, to throw more power shots, to put more on Joanna and Jedrzejczyk. And even though, you know, she has fought twice since and lost twice since, Zhang Weili, one of them obviously a very close fight, Joanna and Jedrzejczyk hasn't fought since. And what if she's a cold start? What if she doesn't fight as well in the first 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes and comes out and, okay, it's better in the second round or whatever? She could be all cut up by then. She could be hurt by then. She could have lost a 10-8 round by then. And over 3 rounds, that's obviously extremely detrimental to your chances of winning. But that's just my thinking coming in here. Like, what's the difference to split them this time as opposed to last time? And I think the 3 rounds is the big difference. Now, we can establish that it might be and it could be, and then we need to establish who it will actually benefit. And if you look at how fights are judged today and how fighters win fights today, maybe if Joanna and Jedrzejczyk ups her volume, it will make a little bit of a difference. But if Zhang Weili is able to land more power shots over 3 rounds, it'll make a massive difference in how rounds are scored. And that very basically is the reason why I think I'm going for Zhang Weili here. Just watching the fight as well. If you watch it, say, as a fighter A versus fighter B, there just really isn't much between them. There really isn't. The way they stand in slightly different senses, you know, with Zhang Weili and her wider, I suppose, I don't know, it's karate stance the right way to put it, but Joanna and Jedrzejczyk in her Muay Thai stance, the way she fights, but I think has adjusted a little bit to fight a little bit longer as well, especially against someone like Zhang Weili who's a little bit shorter than her. It just feels like they're a match made in heaven in terms of, it looks like a high level sparring match, but with dire consequences, as Joe Rogan would say. It just looks, it looks like a pro wrestling match even a little bit in terms of they're working so well together. But in reality, you know, you have the realness of the massive clash of the strikes and of everything in there together. But it just looks so aesthetically good in terms of this style versus this style. It's brilliant. And that's very hard to split. And me splitting them here is very tough as well. But I think, you know, that first fight obviously was very close. It could have gone either way. And I just have a feeling this fight won't be like that. Maybe it will be in the 3rd round, but I feel like the first 2 rounds, Zhang Weili is going to win them. She's going to be able to up the pace. She's going to be able to land the harder shots, and I think she's going to be able to win those first couple of rounds. But God almighty, I can't wait to see it. I cannot wait to see it. Right, am I through? My 4 bets given, and here is the flyer of the week, and it's from the main event, and it's Jiri Prochazka. I put Jiri and Prochazka together there and I got Jiri. That was nice. But it's Prochazka to win in round 2, and it's plus 450. Now, I always say I like these flyer bets, but I do like this one. Like, I think Prochazka will win early, and I've done a lot of analysis in this fight. You can go and watch loads of my analysis on here on Sherdog. I talked about it in that video that'll probably be out the day before this, so please, if you haven't checked that out, and I have another video on heavyweights and main events as well, please check that out. But look, the crux of my analysis here is that Prochazka will fight at a high pace early. Glover will try to weather that early storm, get his wins where he can get them, try to take the fight late and probably try to win rounds 3, 4 and 5 and survive rounds 1 and 2. I think it will be as maybe detailed as that from Glover. I don't think Prochazka will be as detailed in terms of an idea. I think his idea will be go out, knock Glover to share out, right? If it's around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that will be his game plan. Now, if it goes to 3, 4 and 5, I actually think that game plan will turn against him and it'll be detrimental to him. But I honestly, I don't think Jiri Prochazka even thinks about that. I think he just thinks about going out, landing his big shots, and that's that. The cards will fall where they may, and he'll either win, knock out, or get knocked out, or maybe, you know, get decision or whatever it might be. I really think he does. And that's a dangerous fighter. That to me is a very, very dangerous fighter. And with his skill set, you know, his beautiful front kicks up through the middle, he kicks to the body and the legs, and his variety. I love the word variety in MMA is the word greatness, you know, because if you have good variety, you are a great fighter. But if you have variety that's useful, you know, your variety that works, there's no point just throwing all different things and then don't put them together and they're stone useless. But Prochazka throws different various shots. You never know what's going to come, and he uses them very well and lands them very well and very effectively, and it makes a great fighter. And that's why, look, that's why I think he'll win. But I'm not 100% sure, because I have a lot of respect for Glover Teixeira. For me, and I've said it many times, I think he's the most underrated wrestler ever at this level of mixed martial arts. He's a brilliant wrestler. He constantly takes guys down. It's very rarely mentioned. We always talk about him as a very good striker, a great striker, and he is a very good striker, but his wrestling is phenomenal as well. He's top game. He's ground and pound. And could I see him taking Prochazka down, ground and pounding him and win the fight that way? I absolutely could. Without a shadow of a doubt, I could see the fight going that way and ending that way. No doubt about it, but he will need to survive the early madness, or he will need to get a big takedown early. Glover's not the type of guy though who does go for the takedowns very early. He times them very well, and I've said this before, but when I say he times them very well, I don't mean like he dips under, and we'll talk about someone later on who does dip under very well, but he doesn't dip under someone or, you know, wait for a certain movement to time him. I mean, he times them very well in the fight. He times them very well in what part of the round he gets it, so he can land the utmost damage or have the utmost effect with it. I think he's really smart with his takedowns. He might go 9 minutes without even attempting a takedown, lull you into a fight standing up, and then take you down, get a minute of massive ground and pound, and end up winning the second round, and suddenly you won 9 minutes and Glover Teixeira is 1-1 with you. You know, he's that sort of fighter, a very, very intelligent fighter. And I could see that happening here. But I just think, and another thing I could see happening as well, Prochazka is really open, massively open. And if Glover Teixeira comes forward and lands a few shots and counters him and is brave enough to throw the shots in the inside, and brave enough is not the word, he's one of the bravest men in the world, but you get me, like, if he's open enough to do that, which is not necessarily maybe the best idea, but it might get you a knockout, so maybe it is a good idea, I don't know. That's a choice that I can very easily take sitting here in West Limerick, in over in Ireland. But for him, inside the octagon against someone as insanely nimble and powerful as Jiri Prochazka, that's a very tough choice to make. But Prochazka is open for it and can be hit and can be knocked out. You know, Volkan Ozdemir very nearly knocked him out in that fight, so that's a big part of it as well. But I just think Prochazka will go at Glover and be able to get to him. You know, I don't think Glover will give him openings. I don't think he will come forward and try to land those big shots early. I don't think he will. But I think he will give him openings. And I think he'll survive the first round because he's tough. And maybe he'll get a takedown, or maybe he'll push him against the cage and he will survive the first round. But I think once it gets to the second round, Prochazka will open up even more. He will grow into it, and I think he will get the finish. So that's my flyer bet, plus 450 in the second round. Let's see if it happens. So those are my 5 bets for the week. Let's run through the money lines for all the fights and maybe a couple of other bets as well. So starting at the very top in that Glover Teixeira Jiri Prochazka fight, Glover's plus 180, minus 210 for Jiri Prochazka. I think that's just about right. That's a respectful line, I think, for Glover, and I think that is right. If you fancied over 1.5 rounds, it's minus 125, or the under minus 105. So, you know, the over is the favourite there, but if you go to over 2.5 rounds, it's plus 165, minus 190 for the under there. So that's interesting as well. The fight to go to a decision, plus 450. Minus 700, it doesn't go to a decision. So there's some very interesting lines there. Taila Santos is plus 450 against Valentina Shevchenko, who is minus 600. She's plus 400 in some places, is Taila Santos. I think plus 400 is a crazy line, honestly, on her. I think she should be plus 800, 900 maybe. Minus 600, look, who's going to be betting on minus 600? You could throw it into an accumulator maybe. Not a great line, but for Valentina Shevchenko, I think that's probably a good price, honestly. So there you go on that one. Let's look at a couple of the prices for that one as well. The over under 1.5 rounds. The over is minus 355. The under plus 295. The under 3.5 rounds is plus 137. That's not bad. That's honestly not bad. The under 2.5 rounds is plus 210. Maybe. I wouldn't be opposed to betting on that. The fight to go to the decision, minus 120. Doesn't go to the decision, minus 110. So it's basically the same, whichever you prefer. I like the fight inside the distance, to be honest here. Valentina Shevchenko to get the KO is plus 200. That's not a bad line at all. Plus 850 for Taila Santos. Higher in other places. I see some places are up as high as plus 1800 to get the KO. Santos for the submission is around the same. You can get her plus 400, 1400, plus 1500. Shevchenko by submission. Do you know what? This is not a bad bet at all. She's plus 500. Obviously, you know, shop around for that. You might be able to get it in different places, but plus 500 by the submission. you know, I talked earlier about her maybe getting the crucifix and finishing that way, but she could easily put in a rear naked choke and get a submission there or something like that. Very interesting line there. Joanna and Jedrzejczyk is the underdog, plus 145, minus 173, minus 170-ish, minus 165 some places here for Zhang Weili as well. So that's about the line here. Fight goes to the decision, minus 225. I think it probably will go to the decision, honestly. Finishes inside the distance, doesn't go to the decision, plus 185. So an interesting line there. If you fancy Zhang Weili to get the knockout, plus 400, plus 650 for Jedrzejczyk. I think that plus 400 line in Zhang Weili is not a bad bet. I think it'll go to decision, but I will go with that. Let's see what price Zhang Weili to win by decision is. And that is, plus 140. So that's a good price. I like that price as well. Manel Kape is just straight up minus 225. Bontorin plus 185. Here's the fight I want to talk about a little bit. I've talked a lot about the Kape fight. Jack Della Maddalena against Ramzan Imaev. I went back and I watched a good bit of both of them before this, and I was going to pick one of them as my bet, but I went with other bets instead. Jack Della Maddalena in his first fight, in his only fight, I believe, in the UFC, was very good and very impressive, but his opponent, not the best in the world. He did take a few shots still and all in that fight, but his hands looked fantastic. He switched his stance really good, or really well even. He started out as an orthodox fighter and he went to southpaw, so I'm not 100% sure, but he fought most of the fight in southpaw, and he's very slick hands, lovely right-handed jab, and I like him a lot. But Imaev, he's an odd type of fighter. He's such a good record, but when I went back and I watched 3 of his fights this morning, and I got one where he lost and a couple where he won. I don't know, he just doesn't seem like, he doesn't have great striking. He's good wrestling, but he doesn't have great wrestling. He's good top control, doesn't have great top control. It feels like, and this is middleweight as well, isn't it? So, you know, he could probably be a champion with that skill set at middleweight, or get up to like number 3 or 4 anyway. But I think if Della Maddalena is as good as he looked in that fight, I think he'll take Imaev out. I really do, and I think he'll finish him. Let's see what price that is for Della Maddalena. Plus 315 to get the KO. Now, if he is as good as I think he might be, I am not sure. I'm honestly not sure, and I think this fight will show. One thing Imaev does very well, he's a very, very powerful right hand, throws it right down the middle. Very good. I said earlier about going for Teixeira timing takedowns. He times them in the other way, where I talk about time and takedowns. He dips under a shot. If you throw a big right hand over the top, he will dip under it. Maddalena is very compact, concise striking though, and I don't think he will leave as many openings for those sort of takedowns. Also as well, one thing I watched in the Maya fights, and Danny Roberts did it very well, you need to be first when you're fighting him, because if he strikes and then you strike back with him, he will time that takedown very well, and he will time that right hand very well. But if you're first, I think he finds it very hard to get anything off. It kind of ruins his rhythm, and Della Maddalena is the type of fighter who will be first, so I like him in that fight. Joshua Kulabau is plus 190, and Chai is minus 235. Good fight here between Brendan Allen and Jacob Malkoon. Allen's a big favourite at minus 300 there. Malkoon plus 235. Mashtat is plus 150. Steve Garcia minus 170. My guy Andre Filo minus 140 against Jake Matthews, plus 120. Dana Batragal, that's a very good fight against Kang Hyo Ho. Batragal is the favourite at minus 135. Plus 115 for Ho. Ling Na even is plus 135 against Silviana Suarez Gomez at minus 150, and Jocelyn Edwards plus 160 over Ramona Pascual. Edwards minus 160, plus 140 for Ramona Pascual. Right, that's it for me. Here are my bets for the weekend. Shevchenko, via decision, plus 150. Andre Filo to win straight up, minus 134. Manel Kape wins inside the distance, plus 125. Zhang Weili minus 170 to win straight up money line. And Jiri Prochazka for my flyer of the week to win in round 2, plus 450. Right, that's it from me. Best of luck with the bets this weekend, everybody. Let me know in the comment section below if you're on YouTube. who you're betting on. Throw up your bet. We'll go back at the end of the week after the fights and we'll see who got it right, and maybe we'll keep it going. Let's get that going. Tell me who you're betting on this weekend. Tell me if you like my bets, if you hate my bets, whatever. I'll be looking in the comments section there, so get your comments in down below there. Alright everyone, thanks for listening. My name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all